Thank you. The City Council Committee of the Whole is meeting tonight in council chambers on Wednesday, February 12th, 2025 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of discussing the reappointment of City Clerk Eileen Simons. Councilors absent tonight are Councilor Gerslow and Councilor Varela. Joining us by Zoom is Councilor Caroline Watson-Felt. We will begin by, I'm sure that everybody has received a packet or an email, which our clerk was kind enough to print for me, addressing the matters that were presented to her during the reappointment hearing last year. For now, I'll open up the discussion. Has anybody have any comments or questions after reading the packets on development of each issue and each matter? Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just, for the folks at home, I'll just, as I chaired that meeting, I'll just very briefly go over where we're at with this and why we're at where we're at. We had the reappointment of the city clerk in September of last year. During that reappointment meeting, we identified as a group 5 goals that we wanted to give to the city clerk and then to report back in this meeting in February. Those goals were technology adoption, public document accessibility, customer service enhancement, diversity, equity, inclusion, integration, and collaboration with the mayor's staff. And the documents that Councilor Prosnewski is referring to, or the email that he's referring to, was just some updates from the city clerk about where she stands on those goals. And I'm sure she'll probably cover those tonight.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, would you like to address the council on the 5 issues?
Good evening. I can do that if you like. As Councilor Hepworth alluded to, I sent everybody an email with an explanation of the 5 goals, the status of them, the steps taken to accomplish them, and some backup documentation of all the emails that went back and forth with different people involved to accomplish those goals. And I can go over them one by one if you like, or it's however you want me to do it. I can start from the beginning. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into, so if somebody wants to let me know.
I think the Reader's Digest version addressing each of the matters. Okay. Sure that the council may have questions or.
Sure. So the technology, so I can just start by the order that they were given to me back in September. So on the technology adoption and agenda management, I actually, since that was sort of a big goal, I kind of broke that down into two sections. So it was sort of like getting the agenda creation done, portion of it in the public portal, and then the board portal and the training for the counselors and for the users. So I have before the goals were set in September, I met with Amy Douglas from Civic Plus, back some in-person training. In May, it started the end of May. We went through how to create an agenda, and we created some of the snippets and such. And I worked through all of that. And then we had some user training, I guess they call it, for the department heads, and then a board portal training for the city councilors. At this time, the mayor, I had sent emails out about that. The mayor is going to, right now, what he did is putting all the council agenda items into a share folder that I'm taking the PDFs from, so that I'm inputting them into the sections and the headers for now. And I have a meeting with Lisa Peterson on Thursday morning. That happened, how's that going, and so on and so forth. So right now he feels as though it will take too much time for his department heads to, put that all right into the agenda. So for now, we're doing it that way. And I published the first agenda today on Tuesday, to the public portal and to the board portal that you all should have received. And I know we had some training on that. And if anybody wants, there is a help center in the board portal, but if anybody wants, I printed out a few things in writing of, how to access the board portal, how to navigate the agenda in the board portal, how to take notes and how to view your notes. If anybody's interested, I printed out some hard copies. If anybody wants that. And I also have backup more copies, a couple of extra copies of the status reporting goals. So so in my opinion, I consider those as being done as a first meeting in February.
Does any council have any questions or comments on this first matter, technology adoption and agenda management? Councilor Marcello.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Eileen. This was a biggie. This was probably one of the bigger ones, because we've been trying to get the time to transition over to the new agenda software. I did take a lot of time when you sent it out to kind of feel my way through and figure out the best way to use it during a meeting or just to prepare. There's things on their side. It's not on our side. It's on their side. It could be enhanced, I think, and I'll send in comments to them. But as far as, how the different departments work moving forward, we've discussed this. I think we'll get them there. It's training on their side too, right? It's a different process. They're used to doing things one way and they need to learn a new way. And so the first stepping stone is fine, and we'll work, I will help you. We will work to get them to fully use the agenda software as it's set up. But I'm just really pleased that we finally have the agenda, and it's going to take some time. Everyone, even in the public, it's going to take some time for us to figure out the best way to use it during the meeting, flipping back and forth. That's the one thing that I found was if you go to the documentation, the backup documentation, when you come back, it's all the way at the top of the document. And so you have to scroll down again. So there's little things like that will take some getting used to and figuring out how to use it during a meeting. But in general, I think it's great. And I hope that you also get to the point where you can, during the meeting, use the software to start doing the minutes, right? Filling in what the motion was, how it was voted on, if it was a roll call vote, fill in each person's vote that way. But you'll get there. I know you'll get there. And hopefully we can then move on to the subcommittees too, and use the same agenda software for the committee work too. So
that should be on their radar. Yes.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Councilor Stott.
Thank you, President Presnowski. And I just wanted to also echo my thanks. This was a big item, a big step, and I fully acknowledge that. I also want to acknowledge that change, especially in government, is very hard. It's very difficult. So this was a big boulder that had to be moved, and you moved it. So congrats. I think it's amazing to see the agenda up publicly. I, of course, I've sent you some feedback. Of course, I have more feedback, but I think that going to be consistent. Like it's the hardest step is the first step, and the first step is done. So I want to acknowledge that. I want to clap because I really am happy that we've moved it forward. And I truly think, as painful and as hard as it is in the beginning, it's all to make things more efficient and more transparent and easier to use. It's going to be clunky for all of us in the beginning, but ultimately it will be for everyone to be more efficient. So thank you for that first big rock moved. Thank you.
Any other counselors? Counselor Hepworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just third that this is, there are 5 goals on here, but that is by far, I guess the way that I viewed it was the biggest one. And I think to get to where we're at now in February and have this available to us, it was a lot of work. It was not easy. Just appreciate all your hard work there, Eileen.
Welcome, and I thank you for your persistence to keep me changing. It is difficult, but I do appreciate that. And I even mentioned to Councilor Krasniewski, maybe not right away, but there might be, we may want to have a committee meeting, government services, to discuss things that we can bring to the company to, find out more about, or even just amongst us, to best ways of doing things and how it looks, and what they can do better, what we can do better, and better ways to use it. So I agree that at least the big step is over, and they're working on, so I can publish the joint public hearing for tomorrow also. In that. So it has to get published. Thank you. Thank you for your feedback.
Any other comments on this issue? The second matter is the public document accessibility. Madam Clerk?
So that was the share drive. That was another, I know, one of Council Stott's, one for technology as well, that we just did something that used to be a hard copy that we wanted to be on the share drive for public to access, as well as the counselors. That did take a little while after we did have a meeting with Amanda Chiancola from planning, because I know that they put their information on a shared drive. And after a little back and forth with IT, because there were some technology issues with what we thought would be public didn't come up as public. So they had to get Civic Plus involved in how to, I guess, make it public without having to log in on it. There was a couple of issues, but they did. And now the public share drive is accessible to all counselors and to the public. There is a public portal on the persistent links on the City Council website. I did send a shared drive procedure around to each counselor. I emailed that back in the beginning of January. I have extra copies here if anybody needs that, to show where that is. So if anybody wants to, I'll give that to you. Yeah. So if anybody's a committee chair or just in the committee, they want to see what's in there, they can go to, I put the link right on there, but it's also on the website. You can go right in there, see what's in there for each of the 6 committees. I have a stand away of Maureen and I of how we're putting something in and how we're adding something to it. And it should always be there to look, and anything that comes out, we're putting it into another folder that's called like previous documents. So they're not being deleted, they're just being put in there to keep separate, so they're not mixed in with what we're working on currently. And I think, unless there's any, I think that's all that I can say on that.
Questions or comments from the council? Councilor Marcello. Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President Prosniewski. As some in the public, but most of the people in the council know, I'm kind of a Neanderthal with technology. And, I also have some learning disability issues about dealing with technology. But I very much appreciate having a vehicle for the public to be able to access information. And I was actually, even though we did the training and it was easy, when people walking through stuff, I tried to get into the to the different folders today, and it was actually a lot easier than I expected. But I just want to say, I want to, not only congratulate you for doing the work, but specifically point out Councilors Stott and Morcillo for pushing the technology, because I do think that in the end, it's going to make it so that more people participate in the process and people know where to get information and find out why we're doing things or why, the mayor's doing something. So just wanted to mention that, and I appreciate all the work.
Councilor Marcello.
Thank you, President. So Eileen, I think that the way the structure of the folders with the public folder and then all the subcommittees is great. It's logical to me. I haven't heard any complaints from the public yet about not knowing which folder to go to or anything like that. My only thing is that it's only as good as the information that's up there. And so we need to do a better job of getting the backup materials onto the share drive, because that's where the meat of the information is, right? Like, for instance, the home rule petition that we talked about 2 weeks ago wasn't on the share drive, but we sent out the link on the agenda and all it was the order, but the actual text of the home rule petition wasn't there, at least not that I could find. And so, and then I had a hard time getting it up there on Sunday night, but so do you think that you put it up there?
Are you talking the home rule for the election commission or which?
Yeah.
And that was brought in with I believe it was part of the order. That was not there?
I mean, it was on.
Wasn't it on the bottom of it? It was part of the order, I believe. It should have been there.
I didn't see it up there, but maybe.
Yeah, I'll double check. It should have been there. I'll make a note of that. It should be. It wasn't separate. I think it was. I'll check. I don't want to say anything
Maybe
without.
it was there
but I'll double check. Yes, it should have been there. If it's not, and then I did ask as part of the procedure if something does come in like a presentation during a committee meeting to get that to Maureen and I, so we can add that as an additional backup or information to something that you're meeting on, because sometimes we never got it. So it's a collaborative effort to get everything.
That's what I was going to point out, was that the committee chairs need to make sure that information that comes in between the city council meeting and when they hold their meeting gets up there, right?
Yeah.
Because that is the backup information. If we've asked questions and then the department heads or whatever sent out a long explanation, that should be up on the share drive so that everyone knows where to get it during a meeting, and it's there for the public to better understand. It's all public information, it's all transparency. So that was my other point, was that this is a working relationship during the course of our work, just to make sure that the information gets up there. And I'm sure you will help people if they can't get it up there themselves.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, they certainly can send it to us. We'll get them up there. I didn't expect, you certainly can, but it's better if we do it only because so we'll know it's there. If people inquire about it, I'll be, we'll know, I'll know.
Yeah. The only suggestion I would make is that you actually create a folder within each of the subcommittee folders for the item. So for instance, the home rule petition, it was just the order, and maybe that's why I didn't see it, was I opened it and it was just the order text without the text for the home rule petition. But it's just clearer because then the public knows exactly where to go,
If the way I had described it, and we can change it. I mean, I was going to review it in 3 months anyways, is what I gave myself. If it came in as something, it was going on as whatever that council order number was and a description, and that both should have been in there, the order with the home rule petition. And then if something was added to it, it was going to be like number whatever additional information in a different folder. So the numbers, the council and the numbers match up.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. So that was like my thought in terms of when I kind of said that. Did you look? It's not there. Okay. If it's, I mean, I will fix that if it's not. It should have been. So I apologize.
Okay. No, that's fine. And so I'm assuming that moving forward with the agenda software after the meeting, you're just going to be pushing the backup materials and the order up to those subcommittee share drives if they went to committee?
Still working on that. Okay. I will do it one way or the other. It will get done. Yes, yes.
Okay.
I mean, but one way or the other, whether it comes right from the agenda or just another step involved. I'm not not sure yet, but yeah, yes. So yep. And just something else on that shared drive, just so you know, when something is referred to committee, like on Thursday night, it said within 48 hours, which obviously Friday we're only here, well, technically to noon, but I try to get everything ready for the mayor on Monday, but I will try to get it up there, by Monday before 4, things that have been referred. I just trying to do things by priority of what, needs to get done first. So, but as of the first meeting, January 9th, we didn't have anything referred, and the 23rd we did, and I had them up there by Monday, by Sunday actually. So that will, stay part of the procedure since that was part of the goal. All right.
Councilor Stott.
Thank you. And I think that was a great idea that you mentioned earlier, because I believe Councilor Marcillo and I could probably have a 3-hour meeting about going over technicalities and really getting into the weeds right here. So I think it's a great idea that you mentioned of possibly sending something to government services, because I also have feedback like that. I will say I do see the home rule petition and that it was posted on February 3rd, but that's me looking internally. I think that there was something with the link on the agenda, but we'll look into that. But I think little tiny things like that. And my comment in general was I was kind of going back and forth of this was, in my mind, this was always kind of a temporary, how can we get the documents transparent to the public, into assuming that this new agenda software would really handle that. But seeing the way you set it up and the way it's organized and the ease of being able to grab the documents by committee, by topic is just so much more transparent, I think, for the public than trying to know what day on the agenda an item was and digging through it that way, that I really do like this and I hope it continues. And it's a great way to especially have just like historical information of, I know we discussed urban agriculture in 2022. Let's go back to that file and all of that information is right there and easily accessible. So that was just really my comment that I know it's been mentioned before that this was kind of a temporary solution until we had agenda software, but I think that this is really a great transparent way to get multiple documents to the public.
Any other councilors? Okay, item 3, customer service enhancement. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Yep. So when I in the beginning of my letter to all of you, I did start off by after my September meeting. I had a meeting with the mayor on. I think it was in October, because some of the issues did have to do with his administration, and some of his comments and customer service was one of the items, since he had mentioned at the budget meeting that he was trying to come up with some type of standard for all the city departments for customer service. And when I met with him, he was still kind of working on it and pondering about how the best way to do it, because of different departments and different things, and the best way to get the real feedback from customers, especially, like I put him here as an example, you could give them the best customer service possible, but if they couldn't walk away with what they needed, they still might not be happy and rate you the best. So, which sometimes happens in our office, because we do have to follow a lot of state laws before we can sometimes give out a record, or follow the ordinance before we can give out a license or something. So he did suggest maybe looking into Meyer, one of their customer service trainings that they might do. So after some back and forth, and after the holidays, I did connect with Meyer. I guess it's one of their employee assistance programs called All Health or All One Health. And I did have somebody come in to do a customer service training with my employees. And I opened it up with the mayor's permission to see if I could open up to the other departments that were here at City Hall, which he was fine with. And that training was done. Sorry, you think I remember. just a couple weeks ago.
It was on the 23rd, right?
Thank you. Yes. I can't read my own notes. Yes. The Thursday, the 23rd, and I know Councilor Presniewski attended that for a little while. I had to cover the office. Maureen and I covered downstairs to allow all my employees up here because we don't close the office. There was a few other people from collectors and assessors up here. And one of the topics I also wanted to see if All One Health covered was how to best practices or, good strategies to work with employees that do not speak English or English is their first language. So I asked them about a language access, if they had any material on that, which they didn't. So I had invited Rahina to come and talk to the people that were here about that, which she did. And also the Lisa Mahoney was the trainer that day. It lasted about an hour. And, she sent me an email, and I also sent you the email and the slides about it. And, she said some people were really engaged in the conversation, had some good strategies. And I kind of asked her who they might have been. And I was happy to hear there were 3 of my employees in my vital records room of how well they worked together. And because they enjoyed it so much, I did have a staff meeting on Thursday, February 6th, to kind of go over those ideas and how to keep them going. And if there was other, things that they learned they want to do. And I asked if you really liked it, do you want me to schedule some more? And I gave them the description. I think there's like 25 or 26 trainings that they do for employees, and I had them all rank them, and I got them back, and there's a couple that stood out. So I'm going to touch base with them to see if they'll come in maybe next quarter, maybe do 4 a year, like each quarter, and see if they'll come back in and do another training for us. So, went over the office policies again, and I think that's what we did for customer training.
Any questions or comments, Madam Clerk? Thank you.
Counselor.
I'm sorry. A peripheral vision.
It's like the blind spot over here.
Counselor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah. I think for this one, it was sort of like, this is sort of the slipperiest goal. It was a difficult one sort of to nail down, I think, a little bit, because we talked about it a couple of times. But I think the intent, at least on my end, when I was thinking about this, was not that customer service would become a priority, because I think it always has been, but that those standards were consistently communicated to the rest of the department. So I think that these trainings are great. Hope we continue these trainings. And if there is a standard that comes down from the mayor's office, I think that's better to have that be consistent across all departments and not have you create something from scratch there. So in my mind, this satisfies that, and appreciate that.
Welcome.
Anyone else? If not, let's move on to the next one, diversity, equity, and inclusion integration. Madam Clerk.
Okay, so I had a meeting. I asked Beth Renard, our city solicitor, if I could hold a meeting with her and Rahina, since Rahina works for Beth. I wanted to reach out to Beth first. And I held the meeting on January 9th, and Councilor Presniewski was also present for that. And we each had some things we wanted to discuss. And I outlined here of the things that I spoke to Rahina about was my language assessment. One of my new employee, my assistant city clerk to elections, is bilingual, and she was ready, willing, and able to take the assessment. And I set that up almost immediately after she started here, and she passed her assessment, and which gave me some ammunition to finally get my other employee, who was a little bit not so ready, to say it's not so bad. And, finally my other employee took it, and she passed as well. And I just wanted to talk to Rahina about the tracking of it, because where one employee is like, that office is super busy. It's really hard to like, keep track, like, how much time and how many and all that. But, Rahina said it's more, she was okay with like, today or this week, I translated, about marriage licenses or intentions, or, even if it wasn't related, it wasn't as like, specific as she needed, where as somebody in my other office where it's slower now than on election time can be more, more specific of what she might have done. So happy to say both my bilingual employees are now receiving the stipend. So I think that's really excellent. And then I spoke to her about some DEI trainings. I still need to hear back from one of the counselors about what works best for him or her. So I know that most of you had gone through the DEI trainings, and it came to my attention that there was trying to schedule some additional training, which I was unaware of. So I did ask for her to kind of go through me, just when she's trying to set some training or some meetings, so I could kind of work with the counselors and pulls them and, be the contact point person instead of, trying to work with 11 different people. But we came to the agreement that it's more important right now to get the 3 people that hadn't gone through the training, because this was done, what is 25, 24, and 23 it was done. So the people that came on board in 24 haven't been through the 4-hour training. So we want to get them done first and then add some additional training and then come up with some dates for that. So we spoke about that. And then we spoke about some, about some of the programs that Rahina does on a larger basis. If there was a possibility of maybe recording them if they're done here in-house, just in case some employees can't do them because of the time commitment or such. Like just for a good example, like they offered, like, I think it was a 7-week ASL course that was like 2 days a week for like a couple of hours a day, like, and one of them was on a Friday, a short day, and it was during election time. So one of my employees couldn't do it, but I was thinking if they could record it, then they could have sent the recording to my employee that couldn't do it, and maybe she could watch it, at home or, during lunchtime or something. So if they offered again on a time, like this year, it's not as busy, or during, before the fall, she could kind of like watch it. And if they offered again, then kind of maybe be up to speed and, be able to jump in and at least be, not so behind, or at least pick it up quicker or something. So I asked her if that was a possibility. So she wrote that down. And then I wanted to find out if there's any way to maybe do some programs that might just be, we could do within our own department instead of like on a wide basis, which I had explained to her that I had done one that went over really well about, what I called the clerk's giving, of having people bring food in that was related to their heritage, culture, family tradition. It was around Thanksgiving time, and kind of like learn why they brought it in, what had to do with, what it meant to them. And everybody really had fun, and we were very full. So, and, we were thinking of some book clubs or something like that. So that went, that was some of the things I wanted to discuss with Rahina. And then Rahina asked me about language accessibility, like the Spanish translation, which we talked about, which I've tried to do in the past, but not knowing who to reach out to, not knowing companies, knowing that they, what I've gotten was very expensive. She knew of some companies she's worked with, and I just sent you all this morning. Was it this morning? I don't even know what day of the week it is. Some of the companies that she did reach out to and gave you some breakdown on that. So she was able to get that done on a quick basis, which was really great. Unfortunately, it was after the budget, but as I said, I had put a little bit of money into a line item for that. And if you really want it, we can see what we can do to push for it. And then she asked about, bilingual interpreters and poll workers. I told her, of course, I can always use more. I have some ones that, are regulars, but, it's always the same ones. And, my options if they don't come, but it would be nice to always recruit more. So she's going to work on that a little bit with me. on trying to recruit some more bilingual poll workers. So I thought that was great. Let's see, she asked about Spanish sample ballots, and, I did tell her that, since 2022, well, we've always had signs and such in Spanish, but since the new, have been required since the new voting, the voting acts, since 2022, all our ballots are now bilingual, and such. And then we met again on January 29th to discuss those 3 quotes where, in which I gave you, and some of the dates that were coming up to try to do that training for the 3 new counselors, even though it's, they're going on their 2nd year. So I believe that completed meeting with Rahina, and of course, and as I stated in my letter, anything that I consider completed is, will still be ongoing, but that's where I am at the moment with that.
Questions or comments? Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Presnowski, and thank you to our city clerk. I appreciate the focus on all of these issues. For clarity for anybody listening, the language assessments that were done is so that they are eligible for stipends, so that people are staff that does extra work doing translation gets compensated for that, which can happen. So for clarity, that's what that is for, which I think is helpful for know, because it tends to land on people to do translation, and they should be compensated for the extra work. And I also, as we talked, and I appreciate that, the DEI training, the approach that is ongoing, that we have to recognize if new counselors haven't had it, and also for us, longer serving counselors that have had it, that I personally still need it, and to continue that being on the radar and having that training continue. And I think the idea of recording and having, somewhere to reference, that training as well is a good idea as well, whether it's recording or slides that Rahina might refer to in her trainings being available is helpful. So thank you. I just wanted to express support for that and the follow-up on all of that. Thank you.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President Presnowski. So a couple of things regarding translators at the polling stations. I noticed this because the Saltonstall School and 135 Lafayette are pretty close to each other, distance-wise. And in Ward 5, there's a growing population of people who speak Spanish first, around Lafayette Park. And I have, probably 15% of the point. There's definitely more people who speak Spanish who are at the polling place at 135 Lafayette. It's just something to pay attention to. So I do want to kind of blend DEI and customer service into my next comment. And that is, I'm on the board of Project Out, and hospitals and doctors' offices that want to get referrals from people who are, trans, non-binary, whatever. When we do trainings for them, this is like really important. We won't do a referral unless they get a training. And the training has to include everyone in the office, including the receptionist. And at first I was like, oh, why is that important? So with customer service, it's, as this is like what I used to do for work, but it's not like saying, have a nice day at the end. It's how you greet people that makes their experience. Okay. Everything from that point on, even if you tell them we can't give you this thing because the state law or whatever, it's the way you greet them. And I do feel like DEI training is better as an enhancement when it's with customer service. If when the person comes to the desk, no matter what door they open, you see people for who they are when they come in the door. And, if it's someone who is, has difficulty with language or whatever, just ask them, do you mind waiting here while we get someone else, or whatever it is. But I just wanted to say that to you because I appreciate what you're doing. I do want to say that it's kind of awkward that, you had some resistance with another department about the translation. When you went out and got quotes from the companies. And I do feel like it would increase for us the participation of people who come here. I know when I go to like Pioneer Terrace, Bertram Terrace tenant meetings, because they haven't been as consistent getting translators, the Hispanic residents in those complexes don't end up showing up. And then how do you get them to come back? So I just want to mention, I think it's really great that you're pursuing it, and hopefully you'll be successful in the budget.
Any other questions or comments? Move on to the last one, collaboration with the mayor's staff. Madam Clerk?
Sure. So that was one of the other topics I discussed with the mayor when I first met with him, since obviously Lisa or any other staff administration is his employee. So I just wanted to make sure that he was okay if I met with Lisa on a monthly or twice a month basis. And he obviously was. He just wanted to make sure that we had things to meet about. He just didn't want to set meetings just to meet. So Lisa and I, it was good timing that it was towards the end of the year when she reached out and asked if she could get the list of what was in the committees. And I used that opportunity to say, sure, I'll give them to you. How about let's meet and talk about other things? So that was our first meeting was on November 27th. And I think I included in my backup some of the agendas and some notes we took and went, back and forth on, just to show you what some of the things that what we discussed for your reference. And a lot of it was, doing with the agenda, which again, I already said we're meeting again to go over it again. And I think that Sabrina probably should join us only because she's doing, I think, probably the yeoman's work up in the office about getting everything into that shared file on that. And so that will be coming up tomorrow. To discuss that. So Lisa and I have met, November. We didn't meet, I don't think, in December with the holidays and a short month. Then we met, in January and February, and we'll keep those going as well. And, and hopefully we'll just keep those communication lines open.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Also happen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Eileen, I would agree that we should absolutely never meet just to meet. And I think that a lot of us have had standing meetings with people who we don't necessarily report to or don't report to us. And I feel like the best practice is always just, I'm swamped right now, or I don't have anything to cover. Can we push to next month? Or that's completely fine. Or I've just got two things right here. I think it creates a rhythm where, because these two offices do not report to each other, but are so reliant upon each other, I hope that we continue that of just sort of, and again, even if there's nothing to meet about and there's nothing going on, you have more than enough work, I'm sure, down there to do that. But if there is things, then it's a good opportunity just to bring those forward and to sort those out with Lisa. But thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, there are times like Lisa will, her schedule is more on the move, and so there are times we have to move it around, or like or just might be a couple of things, or but yes, I agree. There's plenty of other things to do.
Councilor Marcello.
Thank you, President. I agree with having meetings that just to have a meeting, can't stand it. And I hope that you have now pointed the mayor's office to this great link to the public drive where they can look themselves to see what's in what committee, right? that.
I know if I had that before, I don't know if I would have got it down to my office.
So now they have a link. They can look anytime they want. You don't need to provide any paperwork for them. They have full access like everybody else. I know that this is an ongoing thing, trying to figure out the best way to communicate. And I think that, you both seem to be working on this and, to the best of your ability and really trying hard to make this work. It's, as Councillor Hapworth said, you guys, the two offices are very important and the information has to be back and forth. It has to be there. So I appreciate your efforts and I appreciate Lisa's efforts and hopefully you guys can, come up with a good happy medium between the two of you.
It's good. I mean, like last time, like one of the bigger issues was just talking about the public guides and their complaints and how upset they were, or, comments saying, to our staff who just is trying to just do their job, but, so it's good to like kind of let everybody know, like, kind of like what's going on and stuff. Whatever's, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I am going to open it up to some of the folks that have joined us here tonight and also open it up for public comment of those folks in Zoom land if they'd like to join in. And I know that we have a few people here that may want to address the council. So if you'd just like to stand up and come up to the podium. I know first we'll have Dr. Shields from our Board of Registrars.
Thank you very much, President Brzezinski. I am Alexandra Piñeros Shields. I am the chair of the Board of Registrars. I am a longtime resident of Salem. I've been here for 20 years. I am also a professor and director of the Masters in Public Policy program at the Heller School at Brandeis University, where, and this is relevant, I teach courses on designing and developing policies, immigrant integration, democratic governance, including transparency, and DEI. I wanted to share with you a little context and then talk about goals 1, 2, and 4 that you created for the city clerk. Since I've lived in Salem, I have voted in every single election that the city has held over the last 20 years. And about a decade ago, I went to vote and I was in line. It was a busy one. I don't remember which one it was. And when I got to the person, they asked me for my driver's license, but they didn't ask anybody else for their driver's license that I could see. And I assume it was because I am Latina. It was a very disturbing experience. Shortly after that, I joined the Latino Leadership Coalition, and I volunteered through the LLC to be a poll observer in Salem elections for a number of years. And many of us who were doing that work in the LLC were documenting a lot of inconsistencies in the way that Latino voters were being treated. In numerous cases, Latino voters were being turned away from their right to vote. And so we requested a meeting with former city clerk Cheryl LaPointe. And we requested that meeting for several years on an ongoing basis, and we were always refused. We never had the opportunity to bring the research that we had conducted and share it with the city clerk's office. The reason why I share this context before moving on to the goals is because a culture of racial discrimination and lack of transparency is what Eileen inherited and was trained in. And I think that really matters. I want to, as you all have, I want to thank her for the progress that she has made so far. And in particular, I want to talk about goals 1 and 2, and then 4. So the goals 1 and 2, what I see them as is about fundamentally about government transparency and democracy. And we often talk about democracy in this idealistic way, but what does it mean to practice democracy in and day out in a municipality? And a great amount of it is to do with transparency. And so I was really pleased with the goals that you set forth because they are about transparency. When we prevent Salem residents from participating, we prevent Salem residents from participating in democracy if they don't have access to the functions of our city government, like meeting dates, agendas, et cetera. Eileen has begun the process of using technology to advance transparency, access, and democracy in our city. And that is really important, and I'm grateful for that. But I think that it's only the beginning. As the chair of the Board of Elections, I would like to support the development of systems that ensure that all residents know and have access to the information that they want and need. So I encourage the council to establish additional milestones like you have done already. I think this has turned into a very good, the results have been very good because progress has been made, as you all have been talking about. So I encourage you to create other milestones that we can work on and move forward. And just very quickly, lastly, I wanted to say a few words about DEI. Oftentimes DEI gets reduced to issues of race. And certainly race is part of DEI initiatives, but I think it's a much broader question, right? It is about infrequent voters. It's about disengaged voters. It's about low-income people, people with disabilities, young adults, and yes, new citizens like immigrants. I think immigrants, as you all would agree, make great I am an immigrant myself. We make great contributions. A recent study in Salem, Beverly, Peabody, and Danvers found that immigrants paid $144.9 million in just those 4 cities to our taxes, and $41.4 million in business income. So, we could be here for a long time to talk about the benefits of immigrants. But they're all working in all the restaurants around here that we frequent. They're in the kitchens of our favorite restaurants. They're taking care of the sick at our local hospital. They're cleaning our homes. They're doing our landscaping to make our gardens look pretty. And I think that what Eileen has done in terms of working with the director of DEI, Regina Zaragoza Frey, is really important. I'm really excited about that. And I encourage you again to create additional milestones because I want to advocate for the ongoing collaboration between the city clerk's office and the director of DEI. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shields. Is there anyone else in chambers that would like to address the council?
It's our pleasure to be here, sincerely. Tom Fiore, 36 Dunlap Street, Salem, Mass. Two fellow councilors. We didn't always agree, Councilor Sargent and I, over the years. We respectfully here to commend and congratulate you on taking the responsibility of the city clerk. You set high standards. You're setting the bar high for the city clerk, and it's a credit to you for taking all the time and effort. On the second oldest city hall in the country, St. Augustine, Florida, is the oldest active city hall. Here we are. I look around us. They must be twinkling in their eye, saying, "What's going on here? What's going on?" And technology, Councilor Marcello, technology, it's come a long way. And many of us in the city of Salem are dinosaurs to some of the things you're talking about. Changing. Did you see this one? Did you see this one? And so on. So we need to recognize and respect where we are. You look around this room, sincerely, I'm speaking to this very podium. She got this here. The city clerk rearranged this whole chamber. She got your desk and tables all refurbished. She got that all set. She got the SADV to come in and coordinate camera work, and everything. So it's the most important position you have. It's the only position you have to appoint. It's your most serious one. You gotta take it very seriously. But remember, technology is one thing, and it's critical. Put in the pages, make sure we get the right portal and all that stuff there. Make sure I access the information, transparency. We all want it. But it's people first. As you come into City Hall, second oldest back to City Hall, you see number one, room number one. It's got to be a critical number there to recognize and respect the role and responsibility of the city clerk. Councilor Sargent and I have served under Councilor, maybe City Clerk Fishko, right? Cheryl Point, right?
Debbie,
Berkshire?
yeah, Debbie Berkshire, yeah.
We had some great people, role models. Mrs. Fishko, that room was named after her. Debbie Berkshire's number one. You got to make sure the city clerk's position, make sure I take it very seriously. I respect that, and I thank each and every one of you for doing your diligence. As a school teacher, you're doing your homework. I want to make sure you get the right that city clerk. Number one, and it should be always used. And look at Councilor Davis right here, the newest kid on the block right here. The councilor. I watch your meetings and I come to your meetings, and you wouldn't know the difference. Council President Wozniewski, with all the experience and the wealth of experience he brings, Councilor Davis. All equal. Look at that information. Watching right now, I don't mean to embarrass you. All fitting. And you don't always agree. We don't always agree, Councilor Sargent and I. But you come together as the city of Salem, respecting the city of Salem. You need someone in charge, the city clerk's office, to respect that. And she makes you shine. Talking right here, doing what you hear in subcommittee meetings, elections. Now look around the room. I'm going to tell you personally, I beat an incumbent. Not easy to beat an incumbent. Councilor Masil beat an incumbent. Councilor Davis beat an incumbent. Councilor Stott beat an incumbent. Not easy. You have to go through a recount, God bless you. So we're very lucky to be here because of the integrity and the honesty of the city clerk's office. What the vote is. And I commend and congratulate you. Speaking about the voting process, how important that is. It's come a long way, and we have a long way to go. Education is a journey, government is a journey. And I think Eileen's doing a great job, as she's had great role models to be in, number one. So whatever you do tonight, I commend and congratulate you for what you're doing. But you couldn't ask for a better city clerk. She makes us all shine. From day one, when you came into the city clerk's office, and before inauguration, Councilor Davis, to where you are now, you're not a rookie anymore. You're a full-fledged professional city councilor. I commend and congratulate you. Because of her. You can always go to the city clerk's office for confidentiality, advice. When you walk into the city clerk's office, she drops everything for you. You know it. She makes you shine. She makes the city of Salem shine. When a citizen comes in, she makes people shine. She drops everything. The whole office shines. It's the people. So remember, technology is next. It's really nice to have technology. I'm sitting next to Councilor Sargent. I blew that one, didn't I? Technology. He's got his iPhone. Can I see your iPhone? He was going a mile a minute on his iPhone. Right? Technology. Come on. Don't forget the human element. Silly. Never forget the human element, and Eileen. And she's the best, and she makes us shine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, just a quick history. I love the history of this room and having served there so many years, and I always thought that the chair was more important than the person in it because the council has changed, but the history of this room stays the same, and the dignity and the way you carry on, and the city clerk is the leader of all that. She's the quarterback, if you want to make a football analogy. She's the den mother, the way I always looked at it. And as a new counselor, I was able to do the job because I would start to ask the counselor next to me a question, and then she would, Senator Lovely would look down and point, and the information I needed was already there. I remember first getting emails with attachments when they first started out and not realizing what an attachment was, and the city clerk trained us on that. And they don't just start out being the city clerk. They start out working somewhere in this building, then moving through the offices, and they pick the best of the best. And then that person becomes the assistant city clerk with the full intention of them someday being the city clerk. So that before you're the city clerk, you're well on your way to being a city clerk and knowing this job and making us better, making the city look better. And it's just such an important job. And just one quick thing, hearing a lot about tariffs lately, and I was thinking about this building being built for free with free federal money given to our city at a time when there was no income tax. And it dawned on me just recently that that was a result of tariffs. So something was good about tariffs in those days to give us this beautiful building. So I just want to give all my support behind the city clerk. And not only is she our city clerk, hopefully she's training a future city clerk to take over for her when she moves on. So thank you.
Thank you, councilors. Anyone else in council chambers?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Alyssa Rose Martin. I live at 12 Buchanan Road in Salem. I just wanted to affirm the progress that has already been made and appreciate you all for this open process. I also want to second what Alexandra said in terms of setting additional milestones like diversity and equity and inclusion are a journey that we're all on. And I need to continue to move. The city government and the clerk's office also needs to continue to move. And just in thinking about those milestones, thinking about not just measuring the actions that the clerk takes, but the impact that that has. Like, are we seeing, what is the experience? Like, can we survey people who come into the clerk's office? Can we take another look at what's happening at the polls? And like, are people experiencing bias? Are people getting language access? Like, is it happening on the ground? I'd really want to see that in the future. I think that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for the record, let it be known that Councilor Caroline Watson Felt has joined us. She was with us in Zoom, and now she is here in person. Madam Clerk.
Sorry, I didn't think I'd come up again, but I just wanted to, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Alyssa, thank you. I do want to let you know that, not that it's just because of what happened last month, but always, but the Department of Justice did go around not only in 2022, but in 2024 to all my polls because we are dual language, and I do want to report, and that wasn't part of my report. I do want to let you know that there was no, they went to every single poll and go through a very rigorous talk to people, talk to my wardens, talk to my translators, look to see what all my signs up. I do want to let you know that there was nothing that they reported back to me that, needed fixing or any issues or any problems. But so hopefully that relieves a little bit, but, feel free to, more than happy to take your name. If you want to work a poll, I have some place for you. I am always looking for poll workers and any suggestions. So I just thought that was important to come up here and tell you, even though that wasn't, on my report. So just wanted to let you know, Alyssa. Thank you.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President Prosniewski. So I agree with Dr. Shields that next time this comes up, milestones can be increased. I am going to vote to reappoint, but I do want to mention a couple of things that I think are important. And one is, I'm not blaming the clerk's office or anyone else in particular, but we can do better. We can have better turnout, especially in the areas of the city where there's more people who are marginalized and haven't had the same experience or same access as people in other neighborhoods. So, I'm willing to help out, as you and I have talked about, as I talked about at the meeting for the Electoral Commission. I worked the polls until I ran, and I've been both a poll watcher and a poll worker. And so I think that's important. I also think it's important that, and I'm going to say this because this came up at the Electoral Commission committee meeting, where I spoke as well as other people on the council about how competent your office is about elections, okay? I actually was on Councilor Stott's team during the recount, and to have a vote that's 1,201 to 1,200 twice is almost mathematically impossible. So it really shows a lot of competence of the department. And it's really important. I was thinking about this on the way over here. You know, we all have to go to the doctor, and sometimes we get a test and we're nervous about it because we don't know what's going to happen, or a friend or a family member. And we go to the doctor, and we're there at 9 o'clock, and at 11:30, we still haven't seen the doctor. And that uncertainty makes us all try to prepare for the worst thing. We just assume something bad is going to happen. And that happens to employees when they have uncertainty. And you had mentioned at the meeting, at the government services meeting, that some of your people in the elections office were nervous. I think none of the people in the council or anyone involved in the process of becoming an electoral commission have mentioned anything other than we would assume that those people would be in the new department or the new, commission or whatever it is. And I think it's really important for you to convey as the department head to them that there's no uncertainty, because it is really stressful, and when you're stressed, you can't be as productive, and you want to try hard, and it just kind of perpetuates itself. So just want to mention that to you, because I think it's really important. As you know, I've had a lot of experience working with those people. I'm at the Honeydew at 5:30 when they're greeting the police, picking up the ballots and everything else. And I think those people really deserve to feel comfortable in their position. They do a great job, and part of that is you manage the process. You ran the elections when I first worked at the polls. So I just want to mention that to you. I also really think that as a body, we need to work with you to think about how we can have, sometimes you have to go where people are. How do we get people to be willing and able to vote, who aren't able to vote right now because they don't have the access? People who are more affluent vote more, they have more access, they know the rules, and I think it's really important that we do that. So thank you.
Council Wassenfeld.
Thank you, President Presnewski, and my apologies for my physical tardiness. But thanking everybody for the great dialogue tonight, because I'm able to be here physically. The meeting's still happening after my return, so thank you, everyone. I did want to just make a couple of observations and comments that I think are only fair for everybody involved, our Madam City Clerk, the staff, all of us, and the public. And I apologize if some of this is a repeat. I tried to listen as closely as possible while driving. But, I think it's a really unique position that the city clerk is in, where she has 11 bosses that potentially change every 2 years. She has one head boss who has oversight of exactly conversations like this, and that boss changes every single year. There's a lot of turnover, and there's a lot of there's just a lot going on. And so I think all of us sitting here in our part-time position, depend on her and the care of that department to execute on behalf of all of us and also for all of our residents citywide. And it's a really big job. And unfortunately, there are these things, we have these conversations, and I think there's a lot of care and goodwill and good faith and good energy around them when we have them, and then other priorities take over. And so a couple of things I wanted to just say, which is, like, for starters, as is most often the case in any situation for any person, right? Our greatest strengths can also be our greatest weaknesses. And one of the things that makes the city clerk so good and the role so important is that you need, it is the incredible amount of institutional knowledge, not only about law and practice and rules and accountability, but also filing and the letter of the details that are required in the work, and it's a a lot to manage. And I just wanted to just offer that, because I think it's easy when we sit here and have these conversations to sort of, forget that. But the weakness version of that, unfortunately, is it can be difficult to evolve, right? It can be difficult to take a step back sometimes and look at the community and witness and observe the way that the community itself has changed and figure out how to meet that present moment in new ways. And that is an accountability that we all share. As leaders who sit in this chair, it can't just fall to Madam City Clerk, but I do think that is that accountability, that responsibility to kind of step back periodically and self-assess and say, are we reflective of the community? Are our practices reflective of the community? Are we meeting the needs of this changing and this changed community, right? So I offer that. I wanted to also say that I would love for these conversations to not just happen, right, to all of that, to that end. I would like these conversations to not just happen around the period of reappointment when they have our focus, right, when these priorities suddenly come to the top, they bubble to the surface and they go, oh, it's time to have that conversation again. Well, here we have all these ideas because this is an ongoing 365-day-a-year opportunity for how we serve our community, and we all need to share accountability in that. So if it is, I think Councilor Merkel made beautiful comments earlier about how we're all still evolving, right? I think Alyssa just said the same thing. We're all sort of we all have work to do. And if we come to the table with that perspective, specifically around DEI and our communication styles, our communication skills, whether it's language access, all of those things that we've talked about tonight, this is like I wish we could take a step back and almost take like a working session approach to how are we going to eat the elephant while not derailing the city clerk's office or any of our priorities as counselors, and figure out how we can do that in active and evolutionary way over the next year and every year that follows. And I think that we should set some standards and expectations around our own that reflection and the action plans that we want to put in place. So all of that is to just say, I appreciate the work, I appreciate the evolution, I appreciate the steps that have made thus far. I agree that there's far, far more we can do. I'm excited about the potential of the Elections Commission to solve some of that outreach and that communication stuff, which is, I know sometimes just not possible with the staff that we have. And I look forward to working with those that have come into the public comment tonight. And engaging them to help us be accountable, but also to drive that action year round, right? So we're all in this together. But that having been said, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other comments? Councilor Davis.
Thank you, President Prazinski. Just wanted to echo some of what was said by Councilor Cohen and some comments out there from the public. But yeah, just when it comes to voter participation, that I agree with what was said about just we can do better, and of course that's what was already said. It's on the clerk, it's on us too, it's on the city. There's something like 8% turnout. We just have to do better. So I wanted to just echo my support for the idea of kind of new milestones, even if it's something as simple as reaching out to cities in other parts of the state that might have higher turnout from their immigrant communities. And I appreciated what Councilor Cohen said about folks that are more affluent tend to vote more, which I think kind of leads to how we as the council can be making further progress on that, because it's so that communicates the idea that it's such an intersectional issue, right? The less instability people have with housing and the job market, and maybe it's a conversation about are there good bosses out there letting people have time off to go and vote? I mean, it touches on so many things, but yeah, and to echo Councilor Watson-Felt's point, this should be a more ongoing conversation than just what's how it has been.
Councilor Marcello.
Thank you, President. So, Eileen, thank you. I know that this is not easy, having a public process for goal setting and performance reviews, and all of this is bizarre. Anyone who's worked in business knows, like, this does not happen. You go with your boss and you have a conversation. It's not in public, on SATV, streamed on YouTube. You know, this is a weird position that we're all in, but you did really well. The goals that we set, you achieved. And so I just want to say that and let that kind of settle out there. This is odd. And I don't know if it's ever been done before for the city clerk. And I appreciate the former counselors in the room. This is not easy for us or for the city clerk to do this all publicly, but that's our job, right? And we made huge progress, and it's important progress for transparency. It's important progress for customer service, all of the things. It's really important. What I'm hearing tonight is that people are interested in maybe not as comprehensive goals as we just set, but continuing to have goals each year, which I think is valid, right? I think anyone in a job has goals for the year. I'm going to suggest that, the council president do some thinking about how this should happen from year to year, or at least for this year. It sounds like Dr. Pinheiro-Shields has some ideas in mind for maybe some goals in the area of voting and increasing our voting turnout. So I think that there's some discussion that could be had there. It might take a little bit of time to come up with some new goals, and it may not be a calendar year, but whatever. We can talk about that as it comes up. But that was my takeaway, is that there's still some people are interested in more regular goals, whether they're yearly or whatever, but not waiting until an appointment is up. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Stott.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I just want to echo a few things, obviously, and so my own kind of closing comments are thank you to the city clerk. Great job of completing the goals, and I want to repeat what you said about the completion of the goals, the SMART goals, measurable, actionable, all of that done, but it was a comment made during the first meeting that we had to discuss this, that how can these goals be done on top of, daily responsibilities that you have. But I always saw these are a part of daily responsibility. Agenda is your responsibility, transparency, collaboration, all of that. So just continuing to move those rocks forward. Hopefully the rock is not as big now and it's just, little kind of pebbles going forward, but making those pieces to continue to move forward, not just seeing a check, it can go on the shelf, in the vault and it's done, but having that mentality that it's an ongoing process is very much appreciated. And then I'm also kind of thinking, similar to Councilor Marcillo, what are the next steps here in regards to goals? And I also heard kind of two things. We have the current job responsibilities and measurable actions that we can take there or report on there. But it's also, I think, possibly a transition year that we're coming up. The next 18 months, we're going to slowly be peeling away the election responsibility from the clerk's office. So while, yes, we all have all of these desires and goals for voter turnout and everything that's just discussed, but that potentially will not be under the clerk's purview in 18 months. So I think perhaps it might be, again, for the council president to think about and deliberate how to move forward best on this, but perhaps a whole separate topic of how do we set ourselves up for success and goals and measurable activities for that, not necessarily tied to the clerk's role. I think they're kind of two different actions if all goes according to plan for what we just voted on at the last meeting, hopefully, knock on wood. But we're, July 2026 is going to come pretty quickly. I feel like time always goes really fast in these chambers. So I just wanted to make those two comments and reiterate my gratitude to the city clerk.
Thank you. Councilor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, President Presniewski. I did just remember I forgot one other thing I wanted to say, which is that I think in any position, right, we need a clear feedback cycle opportunity. And so I just want the public to understand that if there are concerns around, if it is customer service or they want to give positive feedback or they had a hard experience or whatever the case may be, this body is the one that is best to escalate to, because we can engage with the clerk's office directly and we can work with them on their staff. So, the idea of surveys was thrown out. All of that is great stuff, but I think from a day-to-day perspective, the bottom line is that the responsibility of the experience falls to the Madam City Clerk and then to us. And so people should feel free to email city councilors at salem.com, 1L, not 2, city councilors at salem.com, if they want to share a story or some positive feedback or, any concerns. That feedback is incredibly important for accountability, and so we welcome it. Thank you, and thank you for all your work, Eileen.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else in chambers? I'm going to look in Zoom land and see if anyone in Zoom land would like to come up and comment. And I don't see anyone raising their hand. So, Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. I move that we refer the city clerk's appointment to the full council with a positive recommendation for approval.
Councilor Marcillo moves for a positive recommendation from this committee to full city council. Under discussion, or seconded by Councilor Harvey. Under discussion. Very good. This will be referred with a positive recommendation to the full city council for tomorrow. I'm sorry. All those in favor? I see 8 hands, plus myself makes 9, which makes it unanimous for who's in attendance. Any further motions? Councilor Morrison to adjourn. Seeing no objection, we are adjourned. We'll take a vote to adjourn. All those in favor? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.